item 31, and I've received a proposed motion moved by Pauline Cotter and seconded by Tim Scandrett. You'll note that we're just adding, and this is what I was discussing with staff just at that minute, was rather than put it up on its own, the staff recommendations are to receive the report, which we should do anyway, but also noting that attachment B will remain confidential until such time as the withholding grounds no longer apply in the view of the head of legal services. It contains legal advice, and councillors have had an opportunity to have a look at it. But it's we've had a clear reassurance that there isn't a direct link between, or there isn't a link between signing the MOU and being involved in the court case. So, and that's been clarified. Yeah, they can. I mean, one stays at the top, and 2 goes down to the bottom. Yeah. So, this is the one, but so I don't know whether anyone's got any questions of staff, recognising that staff have not come with a recommendation on signing the MOU. It is purely a political decision, so I'll be really strict around the questions. If we're straying into the debate, we'll move straight into the debate. All right, Sarah, Celeste and Mike.
Kia ora, thanks for that. I'm just wondering if there are any... if we've had an outline of what the money is going to be spent on, or any accountabilities that might come back on that.
The information I've received from Malcolm Alexander, the advisor to the group, one of the advisors to the group, is that the budget will be split into 3 main sections, which is project management, development of an alternative model, and communications and marketing, and I've had no further breakdown on that.
Yeah. Are we able to ask for some accountabilities to come back to us? I guess we could add a resolution or something on accountabilities. Would be quite good.
I think that could be, I see in what's proposed up there, there's requesting reports back. Yeah. And I would suggest that would be the appropriate place. Including
financial accountabilities or something like that. Would be quite good if we were able to do that, if people agree. Yeah. Is there, at this point where there's already been people sign the MOU, is it possible to suggest, this is what I was going to ask Dan, so you may not be able to answer, but technically, once people have signed something, is it possible to try and add in something? Because I was thinking that it would be useful to add in the campaign partners agree that section, some wording around mana whenua involvement in partnership rather than just engagement and translation, if you like.
I think that would be a matter for the whole group, the plenary group.
Yeah, but we couldn't.
Would need to agree that and potentially come back to partner councils.
Yeah.
But that would be a matter for the group. Don't think I can take that any further.
Yeah. Thanks.
Celeste.
Hi, Helen. I'm just wondering, and I might have missed this information, do we know what other councils, apart from Timaru, that have signed this MOU?
Yes, there's 21 councils who have already signed, and they're listed in the report.
Okay.
And there could well be more, as we've heard just before.
Yeah. And my understanding is, and this is the question, is that the campaign fund itself will be managed by Timaru?
I think that's what is proposed. I'm not sure if that's actually been decided. I think they're effectively acting as the bank and holding that money. But the decisions on trust for the group would be my interpretation of that.
And there isn't any clear guidelines, apart from what they've suggested, as to what that money will be spent on. So I'm just aware that, this is ratepayers' money, which we potentially are just putting into an advertising campaign, which we don't have any control over. So I'm just wanting to make sure that there's clear sort of understanding of where the money goes and how it will be accountable. So
that level of detail may be available to the existing signatories. It's not something I can answer.
So we have to pay to get that information at this stage. There's no clarification. It's all very cloak and dagger. Okay,
there may be others who know the answer to that, but I do not.
Okay, thanks.
Mike?
Thank you. And just most reports we get have a section on the impact on mana whenua, and this one doesn't. Have we actually spoken to mana whenua on the actual MOU and their opinion? Because I don't want to have hearsay I actually would like to hear it from mana whenua whether they'd support Christchurch City Council signing this MOU.
No, that's not a conversation I've had.
Shane's right behind you.
Oh,
I
Shane,
don't know that.
would you care to join me?
Kia ora koutou. So all I can do is give you my best assessment of the situation. I can't give you a mana whenua perspective. However, the business of council is the business of council, and it is a council decision, understanding your commitments as a treaty partner and to the treaty relationship. Mana whenua and Ngai Tahu are premised on the Three Waters reforms, the new entity, if it becomes apparent, are working closely with councils to develop what that structure might look like. As you cycle through your decision on this particular issue, just bear in mind mana whenua might want to have some discussions if it doesn't progress as the Crown expects it to. But the decisions you need to make now are your decisions, and mana whenua would not want to interfere in that. Yeah, that's about all I can add. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Shane. That's just bear in mind that we're talking to treaty relationship staff member.
Yeah, that's what. So I guess, thank you for that. Do you think it actually might be an advantage to lay this on the table to actually have a conversation with mana whenua around actually the MOU and what their view is on it before making a decision to sign up?
Look, I can't really comment on that. I think that's a decision for you as councillors to make, and knowing what you know now with the information that you have, and you make the best assessment and best decisions on that basis.
Thank
and
you,
bear in
Shane.
mind the treaty relationship and the discussions that might happen afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
No. So, are there any additional questions? Okay. So I just want to put my my situation in the context of this debate. So I note that the motion that we have in front of us essentially, if carried, assigns the responsibility for being representative to the Deputy Mayor, Andrew Turner. And I think this is an acknowledgement of the fact that I've been appointed to the working group, which is asked to look at the issues of governance and accountability and community voice. So, and to me, it's really important, and I think we've heard from the Mayor of Waimakariri as well, that it's important that that work is enabled to continue. And that this would put me in a difficult position to undertake that role. So I think that probably under the circumstances and given the nature of the resolutions in front of me, I just think that you probably need to add something in there that appoints Deputy Mayor to speak on behalf of the council, because I can't speak on behalf of the council if this is carried. Eh?
Still a question?
No,
No, we agreeing some
this
wording.
isn't part of the debate. This is just the clarification before we
wording.
move into debate. So you recognise the position that I'm in.
Yeah, completely.
And I've heard from councillors that you want me to continue in the role that I have offered to take in relation to the governance.
That's fine.
Yeah.
They asked for also
So-
Deputy Mayor Andrew Turner to speak on behalf of the council.
And as the council spokesperson on matters pertaining to the Memorandum of Understanding and the campaign.
Yeah.
And the advocacy campaign. Yep. Cool. Yeah.
Because this is council issue, I mean, the mayor, kind of, for the process, whether we talk to the council, rather than, I'm not sure it's council. Okay, no difference.
In terms of impact, it might be better to come back to the council rather. Yeah.
Now it's the council issue, we make this decision.
Yeah. Okay, council, are you happy with that, Pauline? Tim? Yep. So just change that to council. Thank you. All right. So we're all good with that. So on that basis, I won't participate in the debate, and I won't vote. I will abstain from the vote, so you can just acknowledge that. So, but I can sit here and take the debate. So would you like to start, Pauline? Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. And I'm going to start off with something that Mayor Dan Gordon alluded to, and I'm glad he did, the fact that there is a disconnect between central and local government. And it's on the part of central government, and I'm sorry, but it is. And it's been pointed out by the Productivity Commission. They made it clear in a recent report that was embedded in the interim report on the future of local government, where it states, local government is not an agent of central government, and the government must stop treating it as if it is. And I think this is what's happened here. Central government's not engaged fully, and as a consequence, it's found itself putting a bill through Parliament to change the Local Government Act to allow councils to divest our assets, to allow us to divest our assets against our will. So the Three Waters proposal / mandate has proved highly challenging, both in its contracted timeline for complex responses demanded from councils, and also in the consumption of resources, even for a council the size of Christchurch. This was the size of our feedback report, and done in a couple of months. It's an incredible amount of work and an incredible demand on our councils, and that reflects the disconnect of central government imposing this level of work on us. There's been a gaping lack of real engagement and a dearth of responses to our many questions on how this proposal will make anyone better off, questions such as financial assumptions, efficiency gains, other options that do not involve balance sheet separation, volumetric charging, and more, and who authorised that ad. We still haven't had an answer to that and why it didn't get pulled. Basically, the short-circuiting of local government involvement in Three Waters delivery is simply unacceptable, and this Memorandum of Understanding is requesting a pause so that we can develop alternate models which enable councils to retain the assets on our balance sheet and to be given the chance to investigate to find a more balanced approach as opposed to the sledgehammer proposal. We are elected to represent our ratepayers. I'm fighting to protect the three water assets worth $6.9 billion that have been paid for by our ratepayers and to retain control of them. Joining this MOU with the Deputy Mayor as our representative will enable us to add significant weight to the voice and will allow us to contribute to the development of a more palatable model that will be sprung from local perspectives, local needs. And as Dan stated, we will be part of a multi-pronged approach to address the Three Waters reform our way and with our people and our neighbours. So I urge you to sign up today. Thank you.
Sam?
Yeah, thank you. And Pauline, I couldn't agree more. I think that was really well said. I won't traverse any of that because I think we've gone through it. But can I acknowledge Gary and Dan for coming in today? And I think also Pauline and Andrew for the work they've been doing to get it to this point, and obviously Tim for seconding it. I think the really cool thing about this, and Leanne, I completely get your position on the working group. I think the public will understand entirely what you're doing to take a different a different angle at this, as people would expect. But I think what's really cool from this is if we can have a unanimous voice around the table that actually we aren't happy with the decision, but we can work in a more inclusive and I guess cooperative manner with mana whenua and our neighbouring councils who are keen to get involved in this. I think Dan put it so well when he said that no one will be offended if we get involved in this MOU. In fact, some of the principles he believes in will be bottom lines for, I think, that group. So I think everyone across the city should have real comfort that as a united council on an issue like this, like we were on the day, that actually we're doing what ratepayers expect of us, which is to fight from a different angle, acknowledging the mayor's taking a different route as well, to ensure that we can get an outcome for our city. This is all it's about. But we're working in a constructive way with other councils, with mana whenua, in a collaborative effort to change the outcome. No one has said from day one that what was happening before is the only way this can be done. We're simply saying that the model forced on us is not the right one, and this reinforces our position today. So I would hope that people really take that collaborative view. There's no risk in going into this. I think it's a really good thing for our city.
Aaron, did you?
Yeah, just really, really quickly, I just wanted to acknowledge all the people that have been acknowledged, and thank you for the work that that Dan and Gary have done as well. It has made it really clear today. I just want to say one thing. I think Pauline's shown quite a bit of leadership around the water, and I've been elected the exact same amount of time as Pauline, 14 years, and that is the best I've ever heard Pauline speak, and very strongly. And I just want to say, if it is a unanimous vote, that is partially towards her work. So great work needs to be acknowledged, and that was great work. Thank you, Pauline.
Melanie?
I always struggle with these, actually. I always walk a fine line between either decision. I completely understand the intention of the MOU. There's unrest within local government and amongst the communities that we all represent about being compelled to follow a Three Waters reform that has been imposed upon us. And I agree with every point that Pauline made in her opening argument about the extremely poor engagement by central government on this issue. The advertising campaign was patronising and alternatives weren't duly considered. However, it concerns me that if this council signs the MOU and then it subsequently decides it doesn't agree with the path that the partner councils are taking, this council will need to discuss our position with partner councils first. Now, the reason that this concerns me is not because I don't believe in openness or transparency or the power of discussion, because I do. The reason this concerns me is not that I believe that the government has gone about the reforms the right way. They have not. But this concerns me because it's an unforeseeable outcome that Christchurch City Council could see itself at the mercy of a number of smaller councils, as we would only have one vote around the table. The requirement to discuss our position with partner councils first could put a brake on any positive steps that this council might take in regards to the future governance of Three Waters, including working with our local mana whenua, and may potentially result in unintended or detrimental outcomes. It could end up being a case of the tail wagging the dog. It could end up in worse outcomes for our communities. Now, I say this knowing that one of the big concerns around the reforms is the subsidisation of water infrastructure and the boundaries of smaller councils by the residents of larger councils such as Christchurch. In my opinion, this council should be focusing its efforts on the Three Waters Working Group. Our mayor, representing this council and our people, is on this working group, and being in the tent has the ability to really influence the path the reforms take. I believe that this is the most effective, strategic, powerful and positive way forward. As a result, I will not support the council signing the MOU.
Celeste?
I just want to echo the concerns expressed by Councillor Coker. I think it's easy to take sort of a populist position on this, and without looking at the costs and the implications of it. I understand there's a few very strong vocal voices on this, and I would include some of the deputations today amongst that group. I think it's ironic that we are putting money into an advertising campaign whilst we're criticising the government's advertising campaign, if we don't think it's an effective way of engaging with our residents and our constituents. The second is, it's interesting that we're arguing about democracy while we're joining MOU that limits what we can say freely. I find that sort of absurd. And I think the points around mana whenua, I think when you have to say that it's about the translation of a document and inclusion, then we really need to reassess how we're approaching our treaty relationship, and I'm concerned that we're going ahead with something that could compromise that. And lastly, looking at the signatories to this, we don't have a united voice across other large councils. I don't see Dunedin, I don't see Auckland, I don't see Wellington. I see Kaikoura, I see Timaru, I see some very small councils adopting this approach, and I'm concerned that some really strong populist rhetoric has taken over what should be quite a nuanced debate. So I will be voting against this.
Well, I have Andrew, Phil and Jake.
Thank you. I'd reiterate the comment to start off that there's no link whatsoever between signing this MOU and involvement in the legal action. I think that just needs to be reiterated. Keeping local control of Three Waters, keeping water assets in local control, and keeping the assets on council's balance sheets, along with looking properly at alternative models, are all things that this council has already shown in previous decisions and in previous discussions that it agrees with. So there's nothing new here. This is an important set of issues, and we also know that our community believes that this is an important set of issues. Therefore, we need to be using all of the tools in the toolbox to achieve what's needed, and we need to be using all of those tools well. But we also need to put all of the tools in the toolbox so that we've got them at our disposal to use. Signing this MOU and becoming a leader in this particular approach is just one of those tools. It's an opportunity for Christchurch to show leadership, to contribute to the discussion in this place in a meaningful way, in the same way that Leanne's contributing to the discussion and hopefully driving change in the working group. So this is as well as, not instead of. It's another opportunity for Christchurch to engage in genuine partnership, and it's not binary. We're better to be in the tent than out of it, yes, but we're actually be better to be in all of the tents or more than one tent. So this is part of the opportunity to get the best outcomes for our communities, and getting the best outcomes for our communities, in my world, is the reason that we come here every day. Now, given that I'm proposed to be the representative, I'll be pleased to report back information that's required, but also information that's desired by this table. It's a big responsibility, and it's not one that I'll take lightly. And I can also, of course, be communicating back the other way the concerns, the desires from this table back to the group, and be acting as an advocate for them. And yes, we've got one vote around the table, has been said, but being at the table gives us the opportunity to influence, to shape, and to be part of what happens next. So I'm, as you can tell, in favour of us doing this. I think it's consistent with the position that we've taken on Three Waters so far, and I think not to do this would be a wasted opportunity. But again, I would make the point, this is in addition to other good work which is going on in other forums. This is just one more opportunity to get the change that our community have told us clearly they want to see. Please vote in favour of signing the MOU.
Phil?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I agree with everything you say. I'd just like to throw in, it's disappointing that the oversight or whatever by LGNZ has sort of caused a bit of this grief and has made us get to this point. If they'd done something different way back, things could have been better. But I'm very thankful to Dan for getting this going and grabbing it by the throat, and we should give him all the support that we can. Another thing I'm slightly disappointed about, that we're not the ones leading it, and he had to do the work to get there, but fully support.
Jake?
I think we need to be really, really clear. We do know the costs of signing up. That's actually in the paper, along with who else has signed. We also do have financial and message oversight in this campaign. Not only that, we can leave at any time. Let's be clear, the racism that's gone on as part of this discussion has been abhorrent. It's been tough to have it come through our inboxes, but mana whenua want to be a part of any and all discussions that relate to Three Waters. This is one, and as Andrew said, we would be stupid to throw away tools in our toolbox, but it seems that some around this table want to throw in the towel and just give up at this point.
Mike?
Thank you. Hey, look, while I agree with a number of the comments made from people speaking in support of the MOU, and look, I acknowledge the integrity of Mayor Gordon. I am struggling with signing an MOU that's actually quite vague. Previous misinformation spread from one member on the oversight group, and the lack of any acknowledgement of mana whenua and the role of mana whenua in the MOU gives me serious cause for concern.
Jamie?
Thanks. It's been said before, but I think I really would like to acknowledge Gary and also Mayor Dan Gordon. I think, Dan, your deputation, I think, really embodied what leadership looks like. So we all owe you a great gratitude. So thank you very much. I think it's also very clear that our community want us to be a part of this. One of my proudest days on this council term was actually our unanimous vote, signalling that we would recommend to our ratepayers that we would opt out. I think there have been a number of wins in this council term, but I think our unity really gave a reason for Christchurch to be proud of who's representing them. I was going on in my notes to praise the unity here, and it's a wee bit awkward now that I've heard some people do a backflip on that. I think that's really disappointing, but the community will be more disappointed in you and will not forget if you do not come together and represent their wishes today. I think that much is clear. So well done for all you've done. All the best going forward. I think it is an absolute no-brainer to be a part of this. This is most certainly one membership that will pay dividends.
Jimmy?
I think before we make the decision, Cabinet Council, to humble ourselves, listen to the voices from the community, from the residents. It's very crucial and important. But today we heard from the Gary and also Dan, and also we reviewed over the last several months ago. Council, we did have the informal or also engagement with the wider community and residents. Majorities against, all the three waters infrastructure assets were shifted to the new uncertainty, the legal, the kind of new entity. Another one is particular concern is the local democracy. Because while we have this privilege, you can make a decision. There's a people vote for us, stand together. So I echo the Dan and the Gary's one. We need to stand up to show all the leadership. That's very crucial and very important. Otherwise, I think it's not appropriate the way. So and also this is like Andrew mentioned, this is another tool, another channel. This channel is a public channel. Give us an opportunity through this campaign, the group, to have a mutual, respect and equally the dialogue, conversation regarding to this issue. I think if we take this way, eventually it will be the win-win-win policy. Benefit everyone. That's very crucial. So I fully support this one.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I really welcome the opportunity to join into a campaign. This was something that when we were faced with the forced chlorination by government, I suggested that this council needed to commit to a public relations campaign to inform the public about what was being done to us. So it seems to me that in terms of public understanding about what's been going on, that we absolutely need to join in with this campaign, because clearly what's happening about working with government, working with Department of Internal Affairs, working with the Ministry of Health has been a spectacular failure. Just for people that may not be aware, that the cabinet paper on the reform was signed off on the 18th of October, and that was 4 days before they had a summary of our feedback from our submission. So all that time that we did, putting in all the work with all our staff and all the resources, wasn't even considered when they did the cabinet paper. I mean, how unfair is that on us? So I support this approach. I think it makes sense that we should be raising huge concern around the process and around the model that's been put forward. I do recall fondly when our current mayor was first elected into office that she took great delight in showing us, I think it was called the spaghetti junction diagram, of all the governance agencies that were set up post-earthquake to govern the city and the greater Christchurch region. So if any council knows full well the complexity of being over-governed and having over-complicated structures to try and deliver community outcomes, it should be us. I think the important thing about the Three Waters reform is that it removes democracy, it removes transparency, and we have learned all those lessons as we've recovered from the earthquake to see that actually sometimes getting more complicated isn't best. Sometimes actually the simplest solutions are much more practical, more cost efficient, and more democratic. And so if you look at some of the sensible suggestions that have been put forward, like government set the standard and then help us like they do with NZTA to fund our infrastructure to meet those standards, a very simple, cost-effective solution with a model that works in terms of local democracy and accountability, I think it's a far better approach than what we're currently being forced to do. Make no mistake, the lack of a campaign over the forced chlorination has meant that we've had to endure years and years of investment in our water infrastructure on the premise that we could remove chlorine, and it's just not happened. So I think we do need to actually put resources in to challenging what the government are doing. It is clearly unfair on our citizens and on our residents, and we should be really strong and advocate with this group around a different approach.
Anne.
Yeah, kia ora. Along with Mel, I've been concerned about the risks involved in us signing this MOU. And I think one of the greatest risks for me has been the discomfort about water becoming a political football. And we can lose sight of the fact that actually this is about water. This is about our future generations and protecting our water for them. And if my fear has been that as we splinter into different factions, that we would lose that collective, powerful voice that will mean that our waterways are protected for future generations. Water is life. You know, without it, none of us are going to be in a very good space. So I have had those concerns. However, this morning, listening to both Gary and Dan, I think I've been reassured that you don't want to add to the division that there has been about this, and that you really want us to have a voice in what happens to us locally, and that together it is a collaborative move to actually get a better result for us and for our future generations. So I will be supportive. Thank you.
Sarah.
Kia ora, thank you. As a council, we have been clear in our opposition to the Three Water proposal. Our feedback to central government has been clear, and the public are very clear on where we stand. Leanne is now on a group mandated to look at the other options and feedback to government on them, and we will be backing her in that. Making a decision today to not join a group of councils does not water down our commitment to the city in this regard. We will be consulting with our community on the transfer of our Three Waters assets, and other opportunities will also appear for us to get better outcomes for our city. On the contrary, it is precisely because we value our community and our partnerships with mana whenua that we should refrain. This MOU does not reference partnership with Māori, and that should ring alarm bells. It agrees that environmental and water safety outcomes are important, but is specifically silent on co-governance. I acknowledge Mayor Dan's personal commitment to his relationship with iwi, but I would only have comfort that it represented the group if the relationship by form of partnership, not engagement, was on paper. And rather than repeating those points, I just say I completely agree with Councillors Coker Donovan and Davidson, and I don't want to have our residents' voice muzzled by smaller councils who disagree with us. As well as that, there is little financial sense in handing over $20,000 of residents' money with less information on the spend of it than we expect from community groups across the city who are applying for grants. We have no idea what will actually be spent on, and there are currently no accountabilities. If we say we don't like something, we can be thrown out, and they just keep our residents' money. Any assertion that those who vote against the MOU today have thrown in the towel on Three Waters is appallingly disrespectful to colleagues who have worked hard and attended a significant number of workshops, briefings, community discussions, done a significant amount of reading, and have been very clear on their views on the Three Waters reforms. Cheap potshots are not an indicator of a clearly put debating point. Let's join with Invercargill City Council and say thank you for the invitation, but no. not while the MOU doesn't specifically reference an agreement to work in partnership with mana whenua in the advocacy and development of any new model. Thank you.
Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I would like to first of all acknowledge Gary, Dan, Andrew, and especially Pauline for the work that she's done leading into this. This has been really important. The question with regards to voting around in an organisation, we were actually involved with a number of other organisations like the LGNZ where we have one vote, the Greater Christchurch Partnership where we have one vote. So these are actually really important. But if you look at New Zealand, why should one organisation and one group of people have more importance than any other single person in the country? This is actually democracy. And Yanni quite rightly pointed out that this government, through this process, asked for feedback but made a decision 4 days before they actually got it. So where's the democracy there? And I'm deeply saddened that that Gary, Dan's, Pauline and Andrew's, I guess mana would have been questioned with regards to being involved in any organisation that would exclude mana whenua, and I'm quite surprised about that. And to make sure that I'm not political, I'll just suggest something. Any political party could have taken the bull by the horns with regards to source of the water and worked more with nitrate reduction. They could have outlawed copper brake pads. They could have required, through legislation, filters on zinc-covered buildings, especially industrial ones, before local bodies had the problem of getting the water, the zinc, etc., out of the water. No one has done that yet. Just saying that. So this is actually really important to show the ratepayers of Christchurch that we are on board with other areas in New Zealand and we are concerned with the problem and want an alternative mechanism to solve it and to work democracy to get it. Thank you.
Point of order.
Sorry. I wasn't.
Sorry. Point of order.
What is the
misinformation about voting?
That is not a point of order.
It is misinformation.
It's a debating point.
Total misinformation.
Thank you. I've ruled it's a debating point. Thank you. So I will now put. Oh, you want to have a right of reply? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just to reply to Councillor Templeton's comments, look, I personally, I know a lot of other people have put hundreds of hours of work into the Three Waters reforms, both in reading material and going to massive numbers of meetings, which have, quite frankly, not been that fruitful. But I don't disrespect myself for that. The government is determined to push this through by mandate. And signing this MOU and joining the group today will add Christchurch's weight to our plea for the government to pause so we can work with the government and request that the government work with us in a genuine manner, which to date has not happened. And I also would like to thank Gary and Mayor Dan for speaking today and for the hours of work on this. And Gary is a true volunteer, as he's like to point out. And Dan has given assurance of inclusion of mana whenua, and Dan walks the talk. And I think it's disrespectful to question that of him. Leadership from Christchurch is required here. And think about it. And it's been said already, it'll be much better for Christchurch to have a seat at this table with the other half of New Zealand mayors, and it will get to that easily, who are also representing their ratepayers, who do not support the government's model of the Three Water reform and seek the opportunity to co-create with mana whenua. I urge you to support it.
Thank you. I'll now call for a division on the resolutions.
Councillor Templeton? Councillor McClellan? Councillor McDonald?
Yes.
Councillor Johansson?
Yes.
Councillor Galloway? Yes. Councillor Donovan?
No.
Councillor Coker? Councillor Chen?
Yes.
Mayor?
Abstention.
Councillor Scandrich?
Yes.
Councillor Major?
Yes.
Councillor Curran?
Yes.
Councillor Goff?
Yes.
Councillor Davidson?
Car.
Councillor Cotter? Yes. Aye. Councillor Chu? Yes. Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
It's 12 12 votes for, 3 votes against and 2 abstentions.
So that is carried. So thank you very much.